Okay, so in the last video I told you that this line here will get me the input field, that is selecting me and the thing in the HTML with an ID of first number, so that gets hold of this input field in my HTML. And this .val function from jQuery will return me what is the current value of that field. So I'm going to repeat the same for my input2 value variable. I want to get the second input field and get the value out of there. Now my second input field has an ID of second number. So all I need to change is the ID I am looking for in my selector here. So I've got these two variables. Now at no point have I validated that that's worked. At no point have I validated that I've got this syntax right for getting these elements or for getting the value out. And it's a good habit to get into in code, particularly if you do the challenges, to do a small incremental amount and then validate that that has worked. So how can I validate that that has worked? Well, if we think when I click the button, it's going to run this function. Hopefully I can get whatever the current values are out of these input fields. Now for me, the next thing I could do is I could chuck out an alert, and I could use my variables to see, did I get the values from those input fields? So first I'm just going to start with input1 value, and I'm going to run my code. And if I drop a value into this input field, hopefully when I click the button, I should see a pop-up in the browser with that number. And I do. Excellent. And just as a final sanity check, I'm going to do the same thing for my second variable, input2 value. Again, run the code, put a number in, and if I run calculate, cool, then I get my pop-up at the top of the page. So just to track through exactly what has happened there, we click the button, it runs the function calculate, it's got this variable input2 value, and in that I'm saying get hold of the element with an ID second number, get me the value of it, and then chuck that into this alert. Excellent. So I validated that that's all working, so now I can move on. So before we do anything else, we need to be able to add these two numbers together. So if we've got these two values, these two variables here that hold the values of those when we click the button, how can I add them together? Well, in JavaScript, I'm going to make a new variable called result, because it makes sense to me that I want to separate things out. I've got my initial starting values, and I've got the result, which will be adding them together. So let's see what happens when I add them together. Now in JavaScript, we can do this just by using a plus sign. So I can add input1 to input2. And again, just to validate this is working, I'm going to run an alert and put in the result there. And we shall see what comes up. Okay, so if I put 12 in here, and I put 34 in here, and I run calculate, we've got a bug in our system. So we've got a pop-up that says 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason that this is happening is that the current value for input1 value is a string with 1 and 2 in it. So the way that the data comes out of that input field is in what's known as a string. It comes out wrapped in these quotes. That is a data type in JavaScript. And the same for input2 value. That data is trapped in a string. Now, when I try and add two strings together, the result that I get is the combination of those two strings in a new string. So to fix this, we need to take these strings and turn them into numbers. So we can add the numbers 12 and 34 together and then use that as a valid output. So that's what we're going to look at in the next video. How can we turn these two variables into numbers that we can add together?